All right. Hello, and welcome to Follow Up Boss Office Hours. Going to be talking today about setting up and using Follow Up Boss with ISAs. And we're going to even define a little bit what ISAs are and what they do. My name is Lee Adkins. I'll be your host along with Allison Maltese. How are you, Allison?
Yeah, I'm good. Good to be here.
Yeah, awesome. I'm excited to dive into this topic.
Yeah,
Before we do that, why don't you give a little bit of background about what you do at Follow Up Boss and anything else you want to share, and then we'll dive right into the session.
absolutely. This month in 18 days will be my, no, gosh, in 8 days will be my third anniversary at Follow Up Boss.
Awesome.
So I have been a success manager here at FUB since October of 21, would that be? Yeah, so I'm excited for my third anniversary. And yes, so I've been a success manager working with clients, onboarding, grow pro teams, and things like that. So it's just been great and a lot of years now under my belt.
Yep. Awesome. So basically all day you help people
Yep,
understand and use Follow Boss.
that's right. We're zooming all day.
Awesome. Love it. And you typically, if I'm not mistaken, you work with kind of more of the platform enterprise level. So you see a lot of people that probably do have ISAs and deeper, fancier setups, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, even at the pro level, I see a lot of pro teams are, mid-sized teams also using ISAs. So really, it's there for a lot of people.
Right.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, let's start out. Let's begin at the beginning. What is an ISA? Obviously, the term stands for Inside Sales Associate or Agent or whatever you want the A to be.
Right.
And the idea, of course, is I'll keep it super simple. It's not an agent. It's not somebody who's running around also doing showings and trying to do all the real estate, filling out contracts and dealing with all that. Somebody who's really dedicated to working the database and making typically outbound dials or receiving inbound. Um, any other kind of insider thought, or what do you see other people kind of leveraging ISAs as or for?
Yeah. First, I want to point out too, a lot of people use the term client care coordinator. That's something I'm seeing more and more of. So just a little verbiage thing there, ISA, client care. But anyway, they are going to call and follow up with new inbound leads. That's kind of the original main, idea behind an ISA. But they are also going to nurture people who aren't ready to work with an agent yet. That's another thing they can do. And then referring qualified leads to an agent at when it's time, when they're ready. So
Right.
they can do a lot of different things. They can also be following up inside Follow Up Boss to kind of make sure agents after the fact are, you know, getting in touch when they need to, and that the customers are getting the right level of follow up as well. So that's something that's kind of, I think, newer, is that they're tracking leads once they've been referred to an agent.
Right, absolutely. And we'll tackle that a little bit in some smart lists and what I like to call QA, like quality assurance type stuff of just making sure that this is happening across the board. So great. And then of course you kind of said this, but I'll just reiterate it a bit. Again, an ISA can be taking new inquiries inbound. They can be prospecting in the database from old leads or ponds. They can be doing both. Again, typically they're somewhat outbound outreach, but to inbound leads. Sometimes they're finding new opportunities through a dialer or a social media or whatever that is. So I just wanted to kind of define at a high level because I think people use the term and everybody has kind of their own definition. But in my mind, it's the simplest definition for real estate is that it's someone who's not, and they can be licensed, but they're not also trying to go write a contract and do showings and do an open
Yes.
house and all those things.
It's best if that's the focus. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So cool. Well, we'll screen share in just a second. But what are at a high level, like what components of a Follow Up Boss account or setup, would an ISA need? It's similar to an agent, but
Yeah, but there are some differences. I mean, first and foremost, I have to say the dialer is paramount importance. That's going to allow them not only to have their own line, so that they can be keeping track of the inbound calls. I know we have the team inboxes without the dialer, but really it's kind of helpful for that ISA to have their own line, especially if they are going to be helping nurture. We want them to be able to make outbound calls as well. So dialer is super important. Also, smart lists. That's going to be another thing we talk about a lot, is having their own ISA specific smart lists. they're going to have some on their own that they're going to be monitoring regularly on top of, again, if they're going to help nurture, checking up on the agents in their smart list, but there's always going to be some separate ones that are helpful for the ISAs as well.
Right. Absolutely. And we'll get into some detail in a little bit on how you can have separate ISA smart lists that not everybody needs to see.
Exactly.
Awesome. And then I think another piece of this, which again we'll look at a little bit, is also just that inbound lead flow.
Right.
If you're sending a certain price point or a certain geographical area or a certain lead source, because all these you can do relatively easily, but you need to have some sort of plan or strategy, not just, hey, a bunch of leads came to ISAs and I hope something happens.
Well, right. Or, who are they going to directly? Sometimes people want the lead to go directly to the ISA. So we could set up the lead flow so it's just going right to that person. They're responsible for taking them in, versus, maybe they're, where they are going to a group, or if you have multiple ISAs, they're going to a pond of ISAs. So kind of planning, just simply who are they going to? And also then we can, of course, use advanced routing rules for other things like
Right.
yeah.
Right. Absolutely. Cool. Let's go ahead and share screen and we'll look at some of this stuff.
Okay. Stand by. Oh, shoot. I've done something here. Hold on.
No worries.
Lost my screen. There it is. All right. 1 second. Technical difficulties, guys.
All good. I'm answering a question in the chat anyway, so.
My doesn't want to let me pull my screen over. Okay, here we go.
All right, perfect.
Right, now I'm going to share. Oh my gosh, there we go.
All right.
Good to go. Can you see it?
Yes.
Cool. All right, here we are. So of course, our people tab, our proactive outreach, and where the smart lists live.
Exactly. Why don't we go ahead and tackle the smart list first? There's obviously this is a demo account, so these are not our recommended ISA smart list per se. We wanted to actually build one in session live to kind of show you guys, we don't know your model, we don't know how many people you have, but we're gonna go ahead and build. I think we can do that now, Allison. Go ahead and build a smart list from zero that kind of shows, some tips.
Okay, so I want to show you guys this too. There is a great help center guide that Lee can drop for you, working with an ISA client care coordinator. There are some smart lists listed in here. I'm going to build an example or two from this list. These are some really best practice lists for the ISA to check a couple times a day. So we'll talk about, let's just kind of go through a couple of these. So most importantly, a contact that was created less than 12 days ago. So someone that's fairly new, they're still in the lead stage, right? So being in the lead stage means, again, they're kind of new. We haven't moved them to hot nurture. We don't know what their timeline is. So they're a newer lead, less than 12 days old. They're stuck in the lead stage and they haven't had a call, text, or email in the last 2 days. So that's what we're going to build. That's just kind of saying, look, if they're still in lead, what's going on? We need continued outreach here. So we're going to start in our all people tab. Remember, that's your playground, right? There's no filters there. And we're going to add a filter. So that first filter is going to be our created date. Remember, we want them to show less than 12 days ago. So you can either type the filter here, but I see that we have the created column. So either way, you can add it to the right by just typing created. You could also have I could have just clicked the top, this column title. So they were created less than 12 days ago. All right, so that's going to populate that list for us. Let's see, we're going to add a filter then as well for stage. Stage includes lead, right? Because they're still stuck in that lead stage. And then the last part is no call, email, or text. That's best pulled by our last communication filter, because that's going to include call, text, or email, right? So I'm going to just type in last communication here was more than, so it's been more than 2 days since last outreach. So we don't have any in our system that match this criteria, but that's the way you can stack these filters. So created, stage, last communication.
Perfect. Yeah, and that's a perfect example. If you want, do you want to just change the created to, for our example, either a long date or more than, just so we can get some people filtered in?
stuff here, more than 12 days.
I need to get some new leads pushed into this
Some new leads.
for better examples, but
Right.
for now we'll roll with it. Yours should say less than 30 days, whatever.
So you can see here, they're all in that lead stage still, and last communication, here's that column, is empty. Or like Chris here, it was 3 months ago, Chris got a call, but that's a little too long for her to be stuck in that lead stage, right? So a great jumping off point, for leads. That's really where we always want to start, is looking at people who haven't been moved. What stage do they belong in?
And something else you might do, I don't know, this is necessarily a recommendation, depends on your database. You may, if you're like calling focused, or if you're specifically calling focused for this batch of people, you can of course click on or add phone and say phone is good,
Yeah,
phone is not,
not empty.
not bad. You got options here. But if you're trying to just dial, or if you're going to use the dialer, which we'll talk about in a minute, obviously good to just filter out people that don't have phone numbers. And then maybe the email strategy is a little bit different for people that do have an email but don't have a phone number.
Yeah, exactly. And like you can see here, so I did phone is not empty. So the phone field is filled up, but we can see here we've got maybe an invalid number. So you also want to go phone is good, or maybe that's the better choice, meaning it's not empty and it's a good number. Now we don't have that red, possibly invalid number in here, just to kind of help you stay, on track.
Awesome. And then I know it sort of goes without saying, but if you were building this list, you would obviously want to hit save list, name it something smart like ISA phone list. Yeah, new leads, phone list, something that, is super clear. And we're going to get into this in a minute, but sharing smart list by team allows you to share it only with certain people and not across the whole account. So again, it's not confusing for your agents or other staff.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Something else I want to quickly touch on when we're talking about filtering in the smart list and the phone. Another type of smart list that you might consider, because I'm talking about last communication here, call, text, email, but a lot of ISAs really work on phone. So, what I've done for some ISAs before is just create a list, because they're like, I want to call people this many times, or I need to know when I last made a phone call specifically. So in that case, what you might do, I'm just going to get rid of all these. Remember that the columns here, you aren't limited to just what's in this details category. You have all of these different categories to look through. So I like to click the calls category and choose last call made and number of calls made, which we actually already have in this list. Where they're hiding. So they're right here.
Yeah.
So calls made and last call made are just going to show you call data specifically. So sometimes that's helpful as well, as to say, okay, when specifically did I call that person? Last call made was more than 3 days ago or something. And there you go. And remember too, you can be sorting these oldest to newest. So like, who did I really haven't called at all, or it's been a really, really long time, right?
I think that's a missed opportunity a lot of people don't use. The sorting is so important because,
Yeah,
if this was a real scenario and you had 185 people, you would
right.
probably want to sort it by either the worst people first or the best people first. But it doesn't make sense for your brain to kind of call between, here's a more active person, here's a less active person, here's a more active person, here's a less active person. So again, kind of getting focus around, who they're calling.
Yeah, exactly. And if it is a situation where you want a
Yeah.
specific number. Oh, sorry, Lee, you broke up and I might have talked over you. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good.
Okay.
You're good.
Okay. So yeah, if it's a situation where you want to call a specific number of times, and I've heard of that before, we want to call at least 5 times or whatever it may be, same thing. You can do a calls made filter. Calls made is less than 5. Who do I still need to call up to 5 times? And again, sorting lowest to highest in that sense. We've got a lot of zeros here, so time to make a phone call.
Love it. That's great. And then obviously you can save multiple iterations of this list. Again, like I said, if it's email only list, you could do an email only version of that as well. Or yeah, and you said this, but I want to reiterate it as well. The stage being super important as well. That's really what's driving. You mentioned this earlier, and I wanted to more overtly mention the term. I'm hearing more and more people use the term database manager. People who are, okay, the stages are right. They're on an action plan. We're checking that they've done this. We're checking that they've done that.
Right.
So another kind of relevant piece there.
Yes. Yeah. I could do another example of a smart list too. Again, we'll make sure you guys all have this sheet, but like another example would be people who were added within the year who are in the nurture stage, and we haven't called, texted, or emailed them in 30 days. So kind of like your nurture list here, right? Like they're, oh, this should say nurture, but you know, people in your nurture stage who we haven't reached out to in a month, and they were added within the year, you know, so they're not 3 or 4 year old nurture people. We're nurturing them, but you know, it's within kind of a tighter time frame. So that would be another example of that.
Yeah, and that also made me think of the idea, obviously we're here on the everyone tab because in general, and I say would want to see all the leads in the database, but you could add, exclude, or focus only on pawns,
Right.
leads assigned to a certain agent, again, whatever makes the most sense. Yeah, see, it's
Yeah.
funny over time we've added all kinds of
Right.
sort of things. I love that my hot smart list or my nurture smart list has a hot
Here, I'll change
tag
that.
in it, but it's a demo.
It's a demo. There you go. But yeah, so you guys know that's what a nurture lead is, that we're reaching out once a month, which means, yeah, it makes sense that within the year you'd want them to be new leads. But again, we're kind of narrowing down the list a little bit. Again, they're not people who have been in the system for 2, 3, 4, or 5 years. So a little bit narrow.
Yeah, and I wanted to mention this. Trisha dropped a note in the comments, which is an amazing, amazing tip. These columns, you can also move them. Obviously,
Right.
you can add or remove them, but you can also put them into the order that you want. So, we had to scroll way over to the right to find those. But if calls made is your focus, you can drag that column way over. So it is, you don't have to scroll to see it all the time. And you can also resize them. It's very, very handy.
It is,
And that
yeah.
does
So
save
go ahead.
when you hit save. So if you adjust the columns and not the criteria, still hit save and it'll save your columns in the order and size that you had them.
Yes. And don't forget to remove columns that you don't need. If you just want to see some really simple data here, calls made, last call made, phone number, right, stage, then we can get rid of all of this, like, you know, property information or tasks or, you know, anything else, address, email, right? All of that can go away to kind of take this down some. So you've got a really nice, concise list.
That made me, I can't help it. Maybe I had too much coffee this morning, but the dress thing made me also think about the idea that you can find leads that don't have a phone number that may have a valid address. So whether that is mailing them something or having an agent do a pop by or whatever you could do. But again, looking for some of this missing data and using it to your advantage.
Yeah, exactly. Particularly, like, yeah, phone and email. I mean, that's a good one too. Here's an example of someone with a phone number, not an email. I'm sure we've got some vice versa examples, but certainly if they don't have a phone in there, then the ISA wants to make sure they're sending an email at least.
And that's such better follow-up, right? Like, oh, we don't have an email for you. I want to send you this great blog post about 10 ways to save for a down payment. Let me get your email.
Exactly. Exactly. So you have that data too. Who do I need information from and how do I get it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Love that. So I don't know if we want to go too much deeper on smart list. If you have a specific idea, we can. I was thinking maybe we'll go to admin now and look at kind of different permission levels, for lack of a better term.
Great.
Because you may not always want your ISA to be an admin, but um, there are ways to do that.
There are. So in this, I went to admin and team, of course, where you can update your team permissions. So when you've got an ISA, yeah, again, so the admin permission, remember, that's going to allow them to see all contacts in the system, regardless of who they're assigned to, and they can do all sorts of editing, customization, etc. So maybe, you know, you want the ISA to be focusing on viewing contacts, but they don't need all that other stuff, right? We can kind of get rid of things that aren't necessary. So if you were to switch them to the ISA or account team leader role, that is going to allow them to view all contacts in the system. It will take down a lot of that customization, though they can still create email templates. I'm looking here, text templates and add or remove collaborators. You know, they've still got enough permissions, but that's that piece. Then we can go a step further and create those teams, and we can allow them to be the team leader, which means that they are only viewing the contacts for a certain group of people. So not all of the contacts in the system, just a team of people.
And this is another good thing about this is this can also be a good way to kind of onboard somebody and get them going. Like maybe eventually you want to give them a little more carte blanche when they're familiar and comfortable, but also maybe to start out, you're like, hey, let's just give you access to this pond or to this, a set of leads for these 5 agents or whatever that might be.
Yeah, good point. Especially if they're nurturing 4 agents. But like, right, the pond is a great idea too, especially to start someone off. You may have your more advanced ISAs in that pond along with somebody who's new, and they're just looking at a specific set of contacts to get started. Yeah, really helpful.
And then of course I'd be mindful. I probably wouldn't let them export leads.
Right. Yeah, true. We talked.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
You definitely want to record the calls if that's legal in your state
Right.
or you have call disclosure on. And then typically you probably wouldn't want to pause leads, but that depends on your, inbound lead flow and how you're setting that. But
But just to note that really quick, if your ISA goes out of town, do pause so that another ISA or somebody else who's responsible is taking those. That is an important thing to note. If somebody is responsible for like all the inbound leads, things we want to do, what's our plan for when that person is out of the office?
absolutely. And I know this is jumping around a little bit, but because do you mind clicking on teams and then showing the actual ISA team that we have? And this is something where this is typically on a platform account. So if you don't see this, you may not have that kind of 20 to 30 plus user setup, but this team, kind of team within a team, um, is again a way to segment that. And we mentioned this before, but now that we're looking at it, you can also share any smart lists you make with this team so that only people listed here would have access to that smart list. And like we said before, so that agents don't get confused and why do I have this other smart list? So you can share these by team. And then further, jumping a little bit ahead, but further, you have reporting by team, which can be amazing if you're trying to track multiple ISAs and you just want to be able to see what those ISAs are doing activity wise.
Right. And you can see, and I went to the agent activity report.
0.
Right. They're doing great, Lee. Doing really good.
Yeah, we go to all time, there might be a little bit of data
They've
there.
had a light month.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can pull the team. I like the use of emojis too. I do think this is really helpful, so keep in mind you can add those. But then, yeah, you can see the data for just the people on the team and of course pull that time frame. Also, real quick, web, manual, or all. Remember, web leads are coming through automatically, like from your website or lead sources. Manual, though, people might, if your team does add leads or import, then go ahead and choose all here. Just a quick side note so that we're not missing anybody. Right.
Absolutely. That's super important. The way I like to kind of explain it is that web leads typically come through lead flow.
Right.
Manual would be an import, a manual add. And I'm glad you said that because sometimes you do want an import to count. We just imported a farm that we're going to call or whatever. So you may want that to count, but you also, if somebody's imported their sphere, you may not want that to be in that list.
Right. So yeah, just be sure you know what you're selecting up here. Yeah. And I guess lead does that sort of lead us to that
Perfect.
piece.
All my lead flows have been archived because they haven't actually fired in a while.
So this is where we kind of talked about earlier. Am I going to distribute the leads initially to the ISA? Or where are they going to go? Are they going to go to the ISA pond? So of course, for each of your individual sources, you can make that decision. It's that distribution here.
Yeah, let's show a little bit of that. I might even have an ISA group already, or we can make one.
Oh, okay. So yeah, good point. So we've talked about the ponds, which is like a catch-all. All the ISAs have access. They land in the pond and it's up to the ISAs to be checking those leads and reaching out. But of course you can create a lead flow group for your ISAs as well. So it doesn't look like we have one, but this is where we could round robin to multiple ISAs or give them a first to claim option, which would be the pop-up on their mobile device where first person to claim it after a certain amount of time takes that lead and they go ahead and grab it. And it's automatically assigned to them, right? So you could just create a new group here. ISA group. You're going to add whomever you need to that group. And then here's your choice. Is it going to round robin, so evenly distribute, or am I choosing first to claim? And then if no ISA claims it after 15 minutes, who is it going to? Or, speed to lead, maybe we keep that number down. If they don't claim it after 5, does the team owner need to know that? Right? Because we can then fall back to a specific person, or you could choose a pond. Hey, if they don't claim it, they're busy, it's going to go into the pond.
I've been seeing that more and more. I've really been seeing a lot of people doing first to claim as like a quick opportunity for anybody to grab it. And I hope this doesn't take us too off topic, but you could route if the idea was I'd like to get them to an agent first, if that is your scenario, then you can try to first to claim to your agents first, and then have it either fall back to an ISA group or to an ISA pond,
Right.
where then anybody now gets an at bat. But I've been seeing a lot more of that where people are like, hey, there's 15 minutes, anybody can snag it. If nobody does, now it's kind of going into the ISA system.
Right.
But again, it just depends on your model and what you want it to do.
Yeah, exactly. But you do have the option for that weighted lead flow there. So who's group A, who's group B? Just make sure you create the groups first. Then, you're setting up that fallback to the second group, like that ISA pond.
And
Yeah.
I'm going to grab we've got a playlist of all of our office hours ever. And we've got office hours where we go deep into advanced lead flow routing, fancy group stuff. So I'll drop that in the chat and send it out with the recording as well.
That's fun stuff. Yeah. So back on the lead flow page, once you've created your routing groups, you've decided, is it going to go to a specific person or a group? That's where you'll set the distribution here to choose, okay, which group is it going to go to? My ISA group. Or again, if you have one ISA, it's going to go to that person. Right. So you can just choose that way. And you're assigning it for each individual lead source. So you want to make sure it matches or you have that selection made. The next part is the action plans on your lead flow. So as those action plans come through, if people get an email or an auto text, helpful to have those coming from the ISA. So there's continuity in them being able to review those responses and get back to people as well. So thoughts on that too. Oh, Lee, you're muted. You accidentally muted yourself.
I was muting in case my YouTube played itself automatically.
I
Thank
always
you for
do
that.
that.
Thank you for that. Yeah, one more quick thing to mention too. Even if you only have one ISA now, but you plan to grow, I'm a big fan of still setting up a group or a pond. It seems a little superfluous if you just have one, but if your plan is to grow, set it up that way now. Set it up like you have 5, put one in there, and then as you grow, you don't have to redo the process. You just say, hey, I'm just going to check a box and we're good to go.
There you go. Right. Just adding people to it. Cool.
Right.
Trying to think if there's anything else on this page that would be helpful. Again, we're in admin and lead flow. I know sometimes I just forget that I'm just clicking around and not saying where I am.
Yeah, I think the only other thing which you actually had the notes, although I think I just checked it off, was also potentially an action plan firing, and then again being smart about what's the assignment, like who's the action plan going to come from.
And I'm just going to pull this up to show you guys. So I pulled up the buyer new lead website registration plan. Again, you might have something similar. When you edit the step list here, excuse me, here's where you're choosing who it's going to come from, each in email. And maybe they're different. If you've got different templates going out, they can come from different people. Like a welcome might come from the ISA. We don't want things going out to the agent from the agent until later. So again, that's where you can be choosing specific people for that. Which ISA is this going to come from each time, if that's helpful.
Absolutely. Or like you said, a client care account or whatever it is that makes sense.
Right. Which that's another piece to kind of setting up an ISA, which I don't know if we really talked about very much, but like when we're talking about setting up an ISA, obviously, again, giving them the right permissions, but also what email address are they using? And typically it is, your team email, team @ or hello or info or hi, any of those,
Exactly.
Yeah. Which kind of gives you like a general, hey, this is their office. And of course, they're going to be able to get those back in the inbox and be responding. I guess let's talk about inboxes though too, Lee, like team inboxes. When would it be helpful to have a team inbox as opposed to connecting that email, to just one ISA?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and the example you just gave is great. If we're trying to share a hello @ or a client care, that email can actually be connected to an inbox.
Right. So I went
So
to
that
inbox, yeah, and manage here, guys. And then I'm just clicking ISA. So if you weren't sure about this, you can connect another email to the team inbox. So this is perfect for your hello at, or, whatever email you choose, because any ISAs and, anyone with admin or owner permissions can view the inbox, and everyone can be seeing those emails and responding.
Yeah, and that's another great kind of quality control type thing as well. Like, let's make sure all these guys, like, hey, your first job every day is to check this inbox and make sure everybody that came in overnight or later yesterday or whatever gets tackled. We're not going to dive too deep into that, but it's pretty easy to claim or assign that conversation, take it over. I'm a big fan of connecting the email here. We actually do this with our help desk, even though it's a ticketing system. You can still see all the emails in one place. Yeah, it's quite handy. And again, easy to control. Somebody's on vacation, take them off. If you add a new person, just add them here and they're added right into the system.
Yeah. And talking about ISA setup and growing, there is also a list of things that you want to remember to add your new ISAs to, like the team inbox, the lead routing group. Just kind of make sure that you have that plan so that, okay, we've got them added to everything. Because I've definitely heard sometimes, so-and-so isn't getting these emails or texts or whatever. So just make sure you know where you need to add everybody.
Yeah, and this is maybe a little bit of an advanced use, but I think it bears mentioning. If you have an existing office number, or if you have numbers on billboards or numbers on signs that you control, you can also point them and or port them into here. So you could still use those. I had somebody a while back, this was pretty cool. They did it for their MLS number for agents. And so they had a separate differentiated inbox for all the agent calls. And obviously now that's even more so with some of the changes. But you can really kind of control that as well as track. You can have multiple inboxes. I'm not suggesting you get too crazy, especially with ISAs, but you can have multiple inboxes to track certain campaigns, a radio ad, a radio show that you do, or a billboard or anything to that effect. So again, having a good strategy here, there's really a lot that you can do with this.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, you're right. And you guys can add as many team inboxes as you want. A question I always get is, does it cost extra? Nope, you can always be adding new inboxes and we'll assign you a new number. And there you go. And you can use that for mailer for Q1 or, billboard or signs for Q3 or whatever. So nice to be able to track. But remember, again, when you're adding your ISAs, where do they need to go in all of my different, inboxes? Who's answering what? Yeah.
Another advanced use of the inboxes that I definitely want to cover, again, it may be a few steps ahead, but always good to be thinking a few steps ahead. You can also transfer leads to a team inbox, which I'm a really big fan of, like a live transfer phone call to a team inbox.
Right.
Also really powerful for an ISA because you don't want your ISA to have to remember, oh, Bobby's not on vacation this week and he works Arlington. Like they shouldn't have to think that hard to get a lead out. But an ISA could answer an inbound call from this. And it's a little hard to show because we have to be on a call. I'm sure we have a video and an office hours about it, but you can during a call live transfer to a team inbox and it's going to ring out to everyone in the inbox and whoever answers will get that lead. And there is an opportunity for a quick connect intro, like the ISA would still be on with them.
A warm transfer, right?
Yes, exactly. And the other cool thing is it calls from that inbox phone number. So you would want your in this case agents, because they're getting the lead transferred, to save that number as ISA warm transfer answer.
Yeah.
And then they know it's that lead and they're ready. They understand that if they're going to answer that, they better not be with clients or doing whatever. They're ready to understand this is somebody I need to talk to and be prepared. And you have the dialer. It's all recorded. You can see all the things. You got the AI call summaries. It's all working together.
Yes, exactly. And I mean, talking about like new ISAs, et cetera, that AI call summary and having the call recording is so important just to coach, to listen in, make sure that's all good. And remember too, I think this is fairly new, is if you are in a place, of course, a state or province where it has to be two-party consent, we do now have a power up that will do an automatic call recording disclosure. So no longer, so you can, feel free to use the recording and just turn on that call recording disclosure. So it's going to just quickly say this call is being recorded and then connect you. So you don't have to worry about that. I know that was kind of a hindrance is before teams would need to say each time, hey, this call is being recorded. So we've really made that a lot easier. So we definitely encourage you to be recording your calls, especially when you've got ISAs and you're growing and have new team members. So
Yeah.
quick poll on that.
In fact, I'm sorry, I'm all over the place, but can you go and click on reporting call log as well? This is also a great way to kind of QA, and you can still do it within that team if you wish. Here's all the calls that happened. How long were they? Who was it? Was it inbound? Was it outbound? Again, if you have recording on, you can listen to it or find the summary, download it for coaching purposes. Lots you can do here.
Yep. And again, same thing, you've got your time frame, you're choosing who you want to see. But yeah, it'll show you this is outgoing. I think green will be inbound. You've got missed and voicemails. And here is your playback. So you can also come and play back. You'll see that in the call tab in a contact profile, and you can come here to listen back to those calls and view the details.
I just love this as such an easy way to just, here's all the calls.
Yeah,
there's other ways you can get to it, but
this is my favorite report. I think it's great. I mean, like how straightforward, but if we go to a contacts profile, just to remind you, you're going to see all of that in the call tab too.
And the other thing I kind of skipped through myself, I mentioned transferring a call to a team inbox, but if it's an email lead or it's a lead that's already in the system, it's not just a first inbound call. You can also reassign the agent to a group in Follow Up Boss as well, and it'll do the same thing. It'll follow the criteria of that group. So it'll push out to all your agents, certain ones, first to claim, round robin. So again, you don't typically want an ISA thinking too hard about, okay, I got a lead, now who do I give it to? Obviously, some people use Slack, like, hey, who can take this? That's fine. But I see people do this by area as well. Like we've got the East, those are all made up, but like East Valley agents, if you have a lead in East Valley, you can reassign it to the East Valley group, and then whoever's available in that area can take it. So just really powerful stuff. What's funny is I don't know that a lot of this was designed to be used with ISAs, but it really works fantastically.
It works. Yeah, exactly. And I mean, think about, like you said, not thinking too hard about it. And like the agents too, we don't want to get into like, oh, is this unfair? Or they're giving leads to the same person every time, all of that stuff. You can just avoid it because it's going right to a round robin or first to claim. Just kind of takes the guesswork. That's what we're here to do, is take a lot of the guesswork out of, all this communication and sharing, right?
Think when you're building the Follow Up Boss setup, don't think too hard when you're talking to people and doing stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. Plan ahead and we'll make it easy for you to not think then.
Yeah. Love it.
Yeah, awesome. Exactly. And cool. I see here too. Oh, yeah, go ahead, Lee. Go ahead.
No, if you have more here, that's great. I think we have 2 more kind of areas to cover and then a couple of quick kind of wrap up things.
Yeah, I saw call lists we didn't talk about, so I was going to mention that real quick. So going back to calling and the smart lists, remember, you're building a smart list. Maybe it has to do with when you last made a call, right? We're using our filters. So let's just pull last call. Oh, I moved it. Look, see, I lost my column because I had moved it right to.
Oh, right. And we didn't even save it. It's just that smart.
There. Last call made was more than 4 days ago. So I've got my list. So another really powerful feature that is only available on the desktop right now, which is typically okay for most ISAs, is the calling list feature. So now I've got my list honed down into who I want to call. Now I can set up a call list. And what that's going to do is, and you know what we should do too, to your point, Lee, phone is good. Right. You want to have good phone numbers. I mean, it's just going to narrow it down for you and make it easier. So we want to call through this list as quickly as we can. So when you select everyone in your list, remember the second step, select all, and you click calling list, it's going to create a call list for you. And what that means is it's going to pick the first person in the list. Let's go to Jerry, and it's going to call Jerry right away. So you're not going to have to click to call or anything. So you're on the phone with Jerry through your computer speakers, just like we are now. You're going to have that conversation. Again, kind of hard to see, but you'll have the ability to hang up. You'll still be on Jerry's screen. So you can make your notes. Of course, you've got all the information in front of you. You'll see a big next button. When you're ready, you hit next. It takes you to the next profile. It dials them right away. So you're just rolling through, right? All you're making your notes as you go, your call notes, whatever you need. And as soon as you're done and after you hang up, you can hit next and just move right through and it's going to dial for you. Cool. Anything I'm missing there?
No, that's perfect. I know I say this probably every time we talk about call list, but people get scared, I think, when you say the word dialer. It truly is not scary. It rings one person. You can make your notes while you're talking to them or after you hang up. You can send it, you can start your follow-up email while you're talking to them. Hey, I'm going to send you that blog post. Like start it while you're talking to them. The other cool thing is it keeps you in that same tab. So if you're focused on if your thing is to call people and send follow-up emails or follow-up texts, whatever, you can stay in that same tab and just keep going person to person. Hey, I'm gonna send you a follow-up email. Hey, great talking to you. I'm gonna send you a follow-up email. You can really systematize that process and just knock it out.
Great. But you
But
just a couple buttons, hang up next.
yeah, but just important to know that you are in control of when the next person is called. I don't think we can overemphasize that too much.
You are. And it's not going to dial everybody at once. I think sometimes it's confused for a power dialer. It's not a power dialer. It's literally just saving you a few clicks, letting you stay organized and make your notes, and then moving through a list of that you have curated. Only the people that you need to call that you prioritize because you used the filters.
Exactly. Love it. All right, cool. One more tactical thing I think we'll tackle, and that is in the custom fields.
Oh, yes.
And this seems kind of simple, but I think it's pretty important. I'm a big fan.
Yeah. I like these too. So, you guys use custom fields, right? You know that you have to kind of create a custom field to have a label for any custom fields that you want to sort of group, right? So that's what we've done here. You can give it stars or make it all caps. So in this ISA group, you can see a few custom fields that Lee has added that people find helpful. Date transferred to agent, appointment set, call day, date assigned to agent. You could even do, ISA name, original ISA. So there's a lot of options there, but yeah, Lee, do you have more to say about those? Just good.
No, other than the fact I don't know how and why I don't have ISA name in there. We must have deleted it and moved
Like
it.
that'd be good.
Something. But the thing that's also really magical about these is that the custom fields become columns. So now show me everybody that April set an appointment for between, oh, I just didn't name it
You
right.
did 1, 2, 3. I see. So you did
Appointments. That's a terrible name for it though. It should be ISA name or which ISA or something.
Right. So who set the appointment? ISA number.
But now we can drill down and say, hey, how many transfers did ISA to make
Exactly.
last week?
And the one thing,
and
so
really
when
just again, whatever you want to track. No, go ahead. You're good. I'll say just anything you want to track. Custom field. Way to go.
Exactly. Sorry, my computer is skipping a little and then Lee slows down and then I talk over him. So I just wanted to quickly say, when you're doing your filters, usually we're picking like, what do I want to filter on? But the custom fields are the one time you can just start typing in the filters to filter exactly what you need. So ISA, when I start typing that, I can immediately got my ISA custom fields here. So I want to see the appointment set person. How many times has ISA 2, right, set an appointment? So I pulled that and then I can include that drop down. Who am I picking here? And that's going to give you that list of that person's name. So that's how you can be tracking their activity as well.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Love that. Hope we haven't hurt people's brains too much. There's a lot of stuff you can do, but it's not incredibly complex. And you also don't have to do this all in one shot. A lot of these are things we've all learned over time, or, ooh, I bet we could do that. That would be useful information to have.
Right. And remember this great help center guide. This is going to be awesome for you guys. Just again, things we've talked about, lead assignment, smart list, which gives you some ideas like the ones that we built, the calling feature. We do blurb about some third-party systems as well in here, but just a great place to start.
I dropped that earlier, but I'm gonna drop it again, so it's top of mind or bottom of chat, I guess.
And again, adding to that, what's my plan when I add new ISAs, all the places I need to make sure I add them? Do we have a new ISA pond? You know, all those things to consider and make a plan for as you're growing.
Awesome. Anything else you can think of on the ISA side? And also, if you guys have any questions, feel free to throw them at us in the chat or the Q&A.
Yeah, I can't, I mean, you're right. We have been little bunnies hopping around today.
It's kind of my MO. If you've never
Yeah.
seen an office hour, so welcome and sorry.
Yep, exactly. No, I really can't. I mean, we've covered it. Just kind of to review your people tab, your proactive outreach, thinking about the lead flow and the lead flow groups, the admin portion of that. What are we setting them up on team inboxes? What email are we connecting there? Are we creating ponds for them? You know, all those various items.
Yep, absolutely. And you can always get help. I did just also drop a link to a really great recent TeamOS podcast that is specifically about ISAs, structure. It's not as deep in follow-up boss as kind of what we just did, but conceptually using them, creating opportunities. It's great session. Lisa Ryan from Exquisite in San Antonio with Ethan is just a wonderful episode. Highly recommend that, as well as all the great TeamOS podcasts. Why don't we wrap by just, I like to do this often, just show the question mark as well. If you need help with this, first off, there's a recording of this so you can digest little pieces of what we talked
Perfect.
about. But the question mark can get you to support, or if you have a dedicated CSM, Follow Boss is around to help you do this.
Yes, we are. So if you, especially if like something seems kind of buggy in the system, this isn't working right, the question mark here, contact support, will get you right to the technical support team for that. If you have a success manager and you're an admin or owner, you'll see their information here and we'll be able to book a link, or you'll see the link to book. And then cool new feature. So of course we have the help center, which is where we get guides like this, which you can keyword search anytime. Getting started and walkthrough will be great. You know, that's going to give everybody the steps to get started. And that's where our webinars live, actually. So just to show you that, this is where, you know, the Getting Started webinars, it does link right to the Help Center and YouTube channel. That's that piece. But what's cool here, Facebook community, this new search across the knowledge base. So instead of me just looking in the Help Center for a specific article, now I can type ISA. And not only is it going to give me help center guides, but it's also
Oh,
going to
look, there's the podcast I just.
oh my gosh, so how easy was that? So it's going to give you the podcasts, anything that we've done on YouTube in the
And
past.
Halverson, you gotta check the second one. You gotta check Travis.
Oh yeah, there you go. Travis Halverson, that was more deals from your database. There you go. Conversion U, ready to hire your first ISA. Here you go. This is an old one. Maybe don't watch that one with April because she's amazing.
No, it's quite old though. I bet there's new features since we did
Very
that.
true. Yeah. So yeah, anyway, all you have to do is just type your keyword into that search bubble now, and you're going to get the entire knowledge base and anytime we pick up that keyword. So really cool.
I love that so much. I'm so glad you mentioned that because I try to mention that every single time.
Great.
It's such a great unified search to just whatever. And it's videos, it's long videos, it's short videos, it's blog posts, it's help desk articles, it's webinars, it's literally all the things.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's unbelievable what's in
Keeps on
here.
going.
And look how many amazing names of people in there that are out there doing it that you can R&D.
Yeah. That's
We've
right.
got some great questions too. I want to tackle these questions. I thought we'd wrap with that, but these are fantastic questions. There's a question asking about best practice to track when an ISA books appointment, and then what happens beyond that.
Mhm.
I think there's a couple ways to do that, and we didn't get into deals, which could be another interesting way to track it potentially if you wanted to have like an ISA board that were leads that came through an ISA.
Right.
But you know, the shortest answer would probably just be a smart list. Again, ISA, you know, name is not empty. Stages, pending, close, you know, past client, whatever the appropriate stage would be.
Mhm.
I think that's kind of the easiest, more passive way to do that. Um, you know, and I guess the flip side of that, which is maybe the same thing said differently a bit, simply having a smart list of the recent, close date is this date, and then just having that ISA field visible, so you can go, oh, look, this one had an ISA, this one did not, this one did.
Yeah.
Also, if you're using that team functionality, would be another way to see leads that had been tied to that functionality. But my go-to would probably be a smart list, whether it's starting with ISA as the not empty, so you see all your ISA things in a certain stage, or if you just take all your closings and add the column of did an ISA touch this? Because
Right.
that also gives you the dates. So we don't care as much. Well, we care about the closing date, but we don't care as much about the closing date as much as we care as when did the ISA take the actions that made it become a closing 1 year, 10 years, whenever from now. So that, I think that would be, do you have anything to add to that? I feel like those are,
Yeah, just the additional columns, like how many calls did it take? Calls made to get to like that close date, or, again, using your columns to your advantage. How many calls, texts, emails, or, that kind of thing.
yeah.
I just see a lot of smart lists where it's just like kind of the default, which is all the different state or all the different columns and things. I just will always want to remind people to just narrow them down, just give them like the least amount of detail that you need with the most important stuff that you need, so that you're just not bothered with all this extraneous info that you don't need in a certain list.
Yep. And Leslie just asked an amazing question that I'm super embarrassed I didn't think to put into the agenda. What about appointments? ISAs often are setting appointments for agents, whether it's I'm going to set the appointment and then jump ball who can do 2 o'clock tomorrow, or you're checking and doing that. I hate to say I'm beyond embarrassed that we did
I
not have
didn't think about it either.
setting an appointment in our agenda. So let's go there.
Yeah. So, okay, we all know we can create the appointment in FUB. ISAs as admins or with their ISA permissions should be able to view everybody's calendar. We want that calendar sharing in Follow Up Boss. So we want each agent to be sharing their calendar so that the ISA can pull a team calendar, for example, to see everybody's availability. That's that piece of it, is making sure that they can view calendars. And then, of course, when they're creating the appointment, if they're in their own FUB account, it's going to invite them and the contact. So being sure to add, the agent to make sure that they're included there. Right? What else, Lee?
Yeah, that's the essence of it. Although, again, you may want to set a type and outcome here,
Yeah,
more
sure.
and better tracking, and that could be, it could be ISA appointment set if you wanted to track things that way, which also answers the prior question a bit. I will say this, and I say it every time just because, again, I think it's super important. Everything except for those 2 drop downs is visible to the invitee.
Yes.
So don't put super secret things, or hey, this guy's kind of a pain, I hope you have an okay appointment. Like, let's not put any of that into here. But yeah, right. Hour and a half
Yeah,
appointment. Good luck.
right.
So don't do that. But yeah, I love this. I think this is so great. And again, I know some people will set the appointment and then assign the agent. So again, a way to do this, then add the agent once the agent has claimed, hey, I can do 2 o'clock tomorrow. And again, I know some people will do the appointment itself first with the agent and then make sure, confirm it, and then send the invite.
But yeah, you can always edit that appointment.
And correct me if I'm wrong, and I might be wrong, but I think you could do this. If you're using the ISA custom fields, you would also be able to create a smart list that says ISA custom, ISA equals, to Bobby, whatever. And then either does have an appointment or not, no appointment. I think you can view that. I know you can do deals.
You can't, there is an appointment info in the filters, unfortunately.
Okay.
Yeah, so you could have, but again, maybe that's where you want to have another custom field. So like appointment
Right.
date.
Like
Yeah.
waiting on appointment type of thing. And then you could have a custom field that says who's waiting on an appointment.
Right.
So you make sure that you actually follow up when you said, hey, I'm going to get Sally to show you that house tomorrow.
Right. Yeah, so make sure that's a custom field. I'd love to see that. The deal info, some of that is in there, but there isn't an appointment column currently.
Awesome. Yeah, that's right. I was thinking of the appointments reporting where you cannot filter by other things. So,
Right. And
but
that's under reporting appointments. If you did have questions about tracking, again, you can pull the team's appointments, you can pull your time frame and type of appointment. And in the owner account is where you can set these appointment type and outcomes. So just very quickly on that, admin, usually more appointments, will allow you to customize the types and outcomes. That's where you're going to get that ISA, those the options in there so that you can start reporting on that. Cool.
excellent. And that's what I was saying too. Maybe if you wanted to make a type that was like an ISA appointment set, you would be able to say and filter by that and then also see the outcomes of those appointments.
Exactly.
Love it.
Once you
That's
create
great.
that, it's just going to show up when you go to add the appointment in your type. There you go. That's
Awesome.
simple. Yeah.
Love it. Awesome. Well, thank you, Allison. This is great. I know we covered a lot. I hope again we didn't hurt people's brains too much. I'll send the recording out today or as soon as it's up. They also will be in the office hours playlist, which I dropped a little while ago. And they go out in the Follow Boss Friday email. And so you got options.
Awesome. Yep. And don't
So,
forget, you can just type ISA right here in the search across knowledge base, and there you go. You have all that too.
yeah, exactly. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Becky. I'm answering your question in the chat real quick. Yeah, Allison, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Um,
This is fun.
great job, and we'll do it again soon.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks,
Awesome.
everyone.
Thanks for being on. Y'all have a great
Okay.
day.
Bye, guys.